welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac, and today we got some truly amazing news. That's that Donovan Mitchell will be signing an extension worth up to $153.3 million to stay in Cleveland. That deal runs through the 2026-27 season and has a player option for 2027-28. This will allow Mitchell to sign an even more massive contract after he reaches 10 years of service, which will allow him to sign a deal worth $380 million or more. Thank the Lord, because, well, the first couple of days of free agency have passed and the Cavaliers have added basically nobody. It was likely because of both the Donovan Mitchell and Isaac Okoro contract negotiations, with Okoro's contract in particular meaning the difference between exceeding the luxury tax line and possibly not. Now, this new CBA can be really confusing, so stay with me. As things currently stand, the Cavaliers are $13.5 million away from that luxury tax line, and they're about $5.5 million away from the first apron and almost $16.3 million away from the second apron because of Okoro's $11.8 million cap hold, along with Jalen Tyson's $3.3 million cap hold. Alas, this was what the holdup was all about. We don't have the money to work with the at the moment to make something happen. And if the Cavs were somehow able to get rid of Isaac's deal without taking extra salary, they'd probably have access to the full $8.64 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception to use on free agency. And depending upon how things turn out, they might be able to use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception at $5.34 million. That's just not enough to fill the holes that we currently have at backup 4-5 and perhaps a bigger 3-4 if they are set on not being hard capped. As things currently stand, we roster 12 players: Darius, Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, Caris LeVert, Dean Wade, Sam Merrill, George Niang, Craig Porter Jr., Jalen Tyson, and the often forgotten Ty Jerome. That's essentially the same rotation and roster we played with last season minus Okoro, and I think that they will opt to bring back Isaiah Mobley and re-sign Emoni Bates as well. This does not leave a lot of room to add, well, anybody of note. That said, this will not stop me or anybody else from providing you with a list of all possible free agents, especially considering it is possible Okoro may not be back. So with that being said, here are a few free agents who are still available as of recording this video. Starting with Robert Covington, who will be 34 this year. He shot 33% from deep, can still guard up to 3 positions, and the full mid-level is probably the best he can possibly hope for in free agency. He has missed a good deal of games over the last 3 years, though, so there's always that. Next is Gary Trent Jr., who is reportedly available, and according to Michael Grange of Sportsnet, he may not actually even be offered mid-level type of money. And that means, could Gary Trent Jr. opt to sign a 1 or possibly 2-year prove-it deal in an effort to cash in like many others before him have? And he's only 25. He can defend, he can shoot. It would make sense as a low-risk, high-reward signing for the Cavs. And then we look at somebody like Buddy Hield, a sharp-shooting wing who is available. He shot just under 39% from three-point distance this past season between Indiana and Philly. He could certainly fill a role. You look at Saddiq Bey, who is still on the board. He just tore his ACL in March, though, so that plays a factor. He is likely to miss a bulk, if not all, of the 2024-25 regular season, but could possibly be ready for playoffs, right? He could come back around playoff time. Good buy low candidate. Doug McDermott is a reliable sharpshooter who has shot a career 41% from three-point distance up to this point, and he could probably be had pretty cheaply. Then you look at somebody like Kyle Anderson, who is still out there as of recording this. He may have shot poorly this past season in Minnesota, but he does have that size that we have clamored for a long time at the 3. He's a solid rebounder and can play make a bit as well. We saw that in this past playoff run. He's versatile enough to play multiple positions, and I think he would be a solid option for the Cavs with the MLE. You look at Gordon Hayward, who is nowhere near the player that he once was, but beggars can't exactly be choosers. And he does scratch that itch for a bigger 3-4 who can shoot. This past season, he split his time between Charlotte and the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he made 41.1% of his triples, albeit on low volume. Then there's Taurean Prince, who can still space the floor at a good level, knocking down 39.6% of his triples on a very respectable 4.6 attempts per game for Los Angeles this past season, over 27 minutes per game across 78 games, including 49 starts. I'm surprised he isn't already under contract. Then there's Darius, a player who many people seem to be down on, but I'm not. He just spent last season with the Golden State Warriors, where he put up averages of 8 points, 4.4 boards, and 2.3 assists while knocking down over 37.6% of his triples on decent volume at 3.1 attempts per game in just over 17.2 minutes per game this past season. That last part, highly important. He can space the floor. He can play 4-5. Makes sense. He would be a solid fit in the front court that is short on spacing at this point in time, beside either Jarrett Allen or Evan Mobley in different lineups. And this is also important to note. According to Cleaning the Glass, he spent 48% of his minutes at power forward while spending the other 52% at center this past season. He could be attainable for a reasonable price, maybe a veteran minimum kind of guy, who knows. Then we look at Precious Achiuwa, who is still without a new home after spending last season between New York and Toronto. He's underwhelming as a floor spacing presence in the front court, but has at least shown the willingness to take that shot, which could mean a lot in the Kenny Atkinson offense, where they're probably going to get up more three-pointers than they ever did during the JB Bickerstaff era. He's a great rebounder and can likely also be had for a decent price. We'll see. Then there's Cedi Osman, former Cavalier, who is still hanging around unrestricted free agency out there. Would a possible return make sense to the team that gave him his start? I don't know. You look at Trendon Watford, who is still possibly available, and I say possibly because he is a restricted free agent, so whatever deal that he has offered, Brooklyn still retains the right to match. We'll have to see with that one, but I hope the Cavaliers end up making an offer. Now, centers, that's a toss-up at this point. Most of the centers that I would have felt comfortable with adding have all been taken already. That leaves guys like Richaun Holmes, Mo Wagner, who could be an interesting addition, Daniel Theis. They could opt to bring Tristan Thompson back, though I don't think anybody would advocate that he needs to be included within the lineup. There's Cody Zeller, JaVale McGee, Boban Marjanovic, Thomas Bryant. They could opt to bring Damian Jones back, I suppose. There's old Cavalier, former Cavalier, Moses Brown. There just isn't a lot of options in regards to the center market at this point in time. So I don't know if they end up actually even considering that rather than just maybe re-signing Isaiah Mobley and trying him out. Who knows? Time will tell in regards to that. And you guys know how I feel about the guard position in regards to what we have to work with the MLE. I think we're pretty stacked at guards. I would prefer not to even opt to sign another guard, but again, you know, some of the names that I mentioned earlier, they're not necessarily point guards, but they're in that guard category. And we're talking about Gary Trent Jr. and Buddy Hield, guys like that. But if you look to go that route, Tyus Jones is still on the board. Taylor Horton Tucker is still out there. Alec Burks, Monte Morris, Seth Curry. Although I believe that there's interest in him being retained by Charlotte, who just waived him. Outside of that, I don't really see any other names that really intrigue me out of that position group. So if they have to make a choice, hopefully it comes down to Dario, Taurean Prince, Kyle Anderson, Doug McDermott, Buddy Hield, or Trent Jr. I throw Covington in there as well just because the options are scarce at this point in time. Now, all in all, the thing about all of this is that you're probably not going to see a true upgrade without making a trade. That's just the position the Cavaliers have put themselves in. It's not an enviable spot, but there are worse places to be in. The Cavaliers still have 4 stars, depending upon your definition of a star, in Jarrett, Evan, Donovan, and Darius. The problem has always been fit. You have some positional redundancy between both the backcourt and the front court, and I do understand wanting to move up off of one of those pieces to bring in somebody or a few players who may fit a little bit better than what we currently have. But if you're not going to end up doing that, you're really kind of stuck with what you got. We might bring in one of these names that I mentioned, but honestly, I would not be at all surprised if they didn't. I honestly wouldn't be at this point in time. That's just where I'm at. We don't have the assets to make a big offer if you're not willing to include one of the core four. Your only other tradable assets, in my opinion, are Karis LeVert, maybe George Niang. I don't know. Maybe you can throw Dean Wade in there, but I think they like Dean Wade enough to hold on to him at least for one more season. This is the place that we find ourselves in. I'm not necessarily upset about that as many others are. A lot of people have already penciled us in, even with that Donovan Mitchell extension, into a second round, first round exit because the pieces they believe do not fit. All I'm going to say is I would urge you, if we don't end up making a trade, just enter the season with an open mind because Kenny Atkinson is much different than JB Bickerstaff. His offensive philosophies are much different. You will see an uptick in pace. You will see an uptick in three-point attempts. You will see an uptick in motion. You will see a lot of different things that you did not see over these past 3 seasons. And I have no doubt in my mind that over these past couple of seasons since Kenny has been a head coach, in his time with the Los Angeles Clippers or be it the Golden State Warriors alongside Steve Kerr, they just picked up a couple of tricks of the trade. And the biggest question mark with him was always his ability to coach egos, star level talent. And so I'm hoping that working alongside Steve Kerr and Ty Lue, that he has found a couple of approaches that work. And based upon what we heard from his introductory press conference, I believe that to be the case. Go Cavs.